We have news that the NCAA Football Rules Committee officially recommended the adoption of 3 rule changes, which will need to be approved by the Playing Rules Oversight Panel in April, but we expect those things to go through. So let's go through those 3 rules, and then let's talk about what those things mean. The first one is a running clock after first downs, like in the NFL, except for the last 2 minutes of each half. So I'm getting a little bit ahead, but I need you to understand. This is going to bring the number of plays in a game down from about 180 to about 155. Now, I did the math on the piece of on a piece of legal pad, right? Notebook paper. So we're talking about losing about 25 plays per game times 12 games. That means we're getting rid of the equivalent of 1.67 games that the players will play so that they can be preserved for later, right? Playing 12 games a year. I'm going to really unpack how that translates to the sport you're going to watch. But number 2 on the list is banning the use of consecutive timeouts by a team, which I think is a great rule. You ought to just know what you're doing coming out. I don't think you should be allowed to get a look at somebody's defense or offensive set and then call a timeout. It screws it for you and me as fans. It might work for them as a strategist, but this game is on television because we're watching it, not because you're playing it. I love that you're playing it, but you need to be respectful of the hundreds of millions of people that are watching the sport too, right? Now, the third one is carrying over a foul to the second and fourth quarter rather than playing an untimed down. This is important when we talk about the NFL in particular, because that game essentially ended on a defensive penalty, right? In the Super Bowl, the Super Bowl essentially ended on a penalty, right? A defensive penalty. Nobody likes that, but it is a thing that can happen. Over in baseball, they're still getting used to this, that a guy can get called out on strikes because he took too long to either get into the box or a pitcher took too long to rock and fire. Love that rule, by the way, because I'm a catcher on my knees. You got the sign. I don't need you to go through your 5-minute ritual. I need you to get on the rubber and rock and fire, all right? That's what you need to do. As long as we're getting that in football, I'm going to be happy about it. So that gets me to what else I'm happy about and what these rules mean for the sport of college football. So as I mentioned, 180 plays a game in the sport means you're looking at about 90 snaps, probably 75 to 80 snaps for each offense, which means that we get a lot of high-scoring ball games, right? And because you can stop the clock after a first down, you get that real time back and you get that clock time back too, which is to say the game that was once 3 hours and 30 minutes is now going to be reduced to 3 hours about, right? The NFL averages about 3 hours and 10 minutes. So a college football game lasts that much longer than an NFL game. That also is going to affect, you and I watching the games, because I'm thinking about this from the standpoint of you, right? Because rule changes matter for the sport and how we understand it, but it also matters as to how we consume it. So there's a big difference when you are RJ Young on a Saturday watching all the football and knowing that this game is not just going to end when it's supposed to end, but that I don't need to channel surf as much as I need to, right? Or as I would need to if there was a longer game, because there's going to be more pauses. It's going to be more breaks. We're going to have these lulls where I'm going to go from one network to another network. Maybe you're able to keep me on that network for longer because the game is moving right along, snapping. You know that I cover the USFL. One of the things that is important about that sport is keeping the game times manageable. You want something that's under 3 hours. You want to keep the game moving, not because you're trying to perhaps protect the integrity of the 3-hour window, but protect the integrity of the fan who is here to watch football being played, not procedure. We're not here to watch you spot a first down. We're not here to watch you call back-to-back timeouts. We're here to see a guy throw a football over them mountains, right? And that's what the game is tending toward. Looking more like the NFL, which is a more entertaining product than college football is right now when we're talking about how long the game goes, all right? I also think it's very important to point this out from a safety standpoint, and this is my big one here. We're going to play more games come 2024. There's no getting around that. We've been playing 12-game seasons since 2006, which in a sport that's been lasting more than 150 years is not a long amount of time, and yet we are seeing how 12 games became 13 in a conference championship, became 14 if you played in a conference championship in a bowl game. And now if you play a national championship game, you're playing at least 15 games in most respects. I mean, Notre Dame and its independence being what it is, right? They'll play one less game because they don't have to play in a conference championship game, but it's still more football. So knowing that we're going to play more football because of the expansion of the playoff in 2024, we're looking at football teams playing anywhere from 12, if you're god-awful and go 0-12, or 13, or even between 14 and 17 is a more realistic number, right? Because you'll play your conference championship and you might play the first round of the playoffs. But if you make the national championship game, and let's say you don't get a bye, you're looking at an NFL regular season. You're going to play the same amount of games as the NFL. So it would make sense that the sport adopts rules that the NFL already has in place to better protect its product and its players. Because again, fewer snaps means fewer contacts, means fewer tackles, means fewer hits, means guys are more likely to remain healthy and uninjured, means we're going to account for them having to play more football. Okay? This game is inherently dangerous. And if we do not take that into account with every decision we make, it's going to get worse. We don't need that, especially as we're asking and have received more football on the calendar. We have to do our part with the rules to make sure that we're taking care of each and every player for the length of their careers. So I think that's all positive. I think that's a good thing. Thank you for watching the #1 college football show. Please remember to subscribe to the channel and like this video so that you don't miss any of the best college football coverage in America.